Her name is Carly Gregg. She was 15 years old. She lived in Brandon, Mississippi, in a quiet suburban home that, until one day, looked just like any other. But behind that front door, a family would be destroyed forever. This is the story of a teenage girl accused of murdering her own mother and trying to kill her stepfather. A case so disturbing, it forced a jury to answer a question no one wants to face. Can a child be evil? Before the trial ever began, Carly Gregg made a decision that would define her future. She rejected a plea deal. A deal that would have spared her a possible life sentence. Instead, the teen chose to take her chances in front of a jury, knowing that if convicted, she could spend the rest of her life in prison. The courtroom understood what was at stake. So did Carly.
Versus Carly Gregg, cause number 2024-34169. Please bring the defendant to the podium. All right, we're here by way of pretrial conference checklist, which means that the defendant has rejected any recommendation from the state. For the record, what was the last recommendation of the state of Mississippi?
Here, the state recommended 40 years in the custody of Mississippi Department of Corrections and agreed to not cross counts 2 and 3 of the indictment. Again, there were fines and no contact and things like that.
All right, Ms. Gregg, did you receive that recommendation of 40 years?
Yes, sir.
And it was your choice and your choice alone to reject that recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor.
You know, if she proceeds to trial, count 1, what's the potential sentence?
Life.
If the jury fails to affix the sentence at life, what's the sentencing range?
20 years to 40 years.
All right, and count 2, what's the potential sentence?
Between 20 years and life.
All right. She's 14 years old, so if the jury fails to affix the punishment at life, she's facing 50 years?
Give or take, Your Honor, yes.
Okay. And in count 3, what's she facing?
Another 10 years.
Another 10 years. So the jury will either acquit you, or you'll be facing 2 life sentences, or this court can sentence you up to 93 years. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's your choice and your choice alone to proceed to trial.
Yes, Your Honor.
Have a seat. It says discovery is complete except expert reports from non-experts. I thought I've ordered that. Those be turned over 3 times.
During opening statements, the state laid out its version of events. Prosecutors told the jury that 15-year-old Carly Gregg shot her mother, Ashley Smylie, 3 times. 3 deliberate pulls of the trigger. They claimed the shooting happened after Ashley discovered her daughter's secret life, a life Carly didn't want exposed. The state argued this was not panic, not confusion, but a calculated act of violence inside the family home.
Ladies and gentlemen, after the incident with Carly that morning, you'll hear that he gets in touch with another friend and he's like, hey, you got to keep her distracted so I can go tell Miss Smylie what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, this friend cared about Carly. He was like, I gotta intervene. I gotta tell her. I'm afraid of what's happening. You'll hear from him that he did in fact tell Miss Smylie. That after 4th block that day, he goes and he tells Miss Smylie, hey, Carly has got these vapes. She's got this phone. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll hear then that Carly Gregg rides in the car home with her mother from school to their house. They leave school sometime after 3:30. They get home a little before 4. You'll hear that when they get inside the house, it's only their 2 dogs, Ashley Smylie and Carly Gregg. Immediately, Carly goes and lets the dogs out.
Then the courtroom heard the 911 audio. Carly Gregg sat silently as her stepfather's voice played through the speakers.
What's the location of your emergency? Your daughter tried to shoot you? Yeah!
He told dispatchers his stepdaughter had shot him, and that she had murdered her own mother. As the call played, Carly broke down. Her head dropped, her shoulders shook. Jurors watched closely, because emotion alone doesn't decide guilt, but it tells a story. The defense told a very different story. They said Carly Gregg loved her mother deeply, that the teenager was suffering from an undiagnosed mental illness, and that she never, ever wanted to hurt her mother or stepfather. They argued this was not evil, it was illness, and untreated.
We believe the evidence will show that there were 3 victims on March 19th. Ashley Smylie, Heath Smylie, and Carly Smylie. And Carly Gregg. We believe the evidence will show that Carly had been suffering from a mental illness, that Carly was not aware on March 19th that she had a mental illness.
Carly's stepfather took the stand, the surviving victim. He told the jury he believed Carly thought there was an intruder in the house. He said she was screaming, terrified, and completely disconnected from reality. She had seen a demon, he testified. The defense said this was proof of psychosis. The state said it was an excuse.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen exactly what you remember about when you came home on March the 19th, 2024.
Everything seemed pretty normal, and I came on in, and when I opened the door to the kitchen there, gun went off in my face before the door was, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches wide open, and everything kind of went pretty fast from there. It was a blur.
Walk us through, you said that you were able to at some point get the gun from her. Tell us, Heath, what is it that you remember after that?
She was screaming out of her mind, scared. It was like she had seen a demon or something.
Then came the surveillance video. The jury heard screams, then gunshots. Moments later, Carly Gregg was seen running from the scene. The state revealed that earlier that day, Carly had allegedly murdered her mother and then texted a friend to come see the body. The defense said the behavior showed confusion. The state said it showed awareness. Deputy Tony Shack testified that Carly Gregg was found over a mile from her home.
Let me do it. I got a cuff on her. I got her handcuffed. Alright, sweetie. Look. Let me step out real quick for me. Alright. Hey, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move on around to the front of you, okay? I'm gonna move the handcuffs around to the front of you. Okay. Alright. Alright, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna swab your hands, okay? Right. Now, I'll ask you a bunch of questions, but obviously you fired with a pistol, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Alright, look. I need you to hold your hand out like this. I'm gonna do your right hand first, okay? Just your right hand. Keep it right like that.
Swab up here.
What is this?
It's a GSR. It shows which hand did you shoot with?
Okay.
Which hand did you shoot with?
Alright, I'm gonna go up.
Flop the hand, turn the hand over.
Turn it over.
And rub on the outside part around the knuckles.
Where do you want hits from me? I guess you can put it in my vehicle with my key in. The key fob is in my left pocket.
Alright, so go ahead and take it. Alright.
Is my stepdad okay? I don't know, baby. I can't talk to you about it. Are you okay?
Yeah. Lisa, what,
This is his phone. She came from bullshit. He's like, okay, so, can you take her up to the office on the interviewer?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I guess, I don't know if you want to hang out or whatever, but the judge wants you to stay at JEC tonight. They've informed her what's going on, and then she'll be brought over to jail in the morning after she sees the judge.
she has no idea what even, she don't even know about her mom.
He told jurors he muted part of his body cam during the encounter, and he revealed something chilling. Carly never asked about her mother. She only asked about her stepfather.
We paused it, but the camera had stopped. Why did the camera stop it?
Right, the camera's not stopped, it's muted.
Okay.
It's muted, yeah. The actual camera, in order to mute it, the button's right here, so it covers the lens, but it's still active. It's just it's muted.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. Beforehand, when I asked you the question of why you had muted it,
Correct.
my understanding was you said it was a personnel issue.
Right.
Now, we're muted on the video right now.
Correct.
Right before you muted,
Right.
you're talking about Carly doesn't know her mother's dead.
Overruled. Sustained is deleting, but rephrase your question.
Yes. You saw what you said, remember?
Right, yes.
What were you talking about?
Right then, what I was talking about was she never inquired about her mother. I mean, that's why I was saying that, she only asked about her stepdad. Hence, even when she got out of the car, she asked, how's my stepdad? It was never she never said, is my mom okay? Or anything like that. I assumed that she didn't even know about her mom. And I didn't know the full details of the case whenever I got there.
Okay.
After 1 hour and 57 minutes of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty on all counts.
All right, the verdicts appear to be in proper form. Verdict of the jury is count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Please be seated, Ms. Gregg. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury is custom for the court to poll the jury. I have to do it each time. And for each count, I'm not being rude. The quickest way for me to get through this is to simply point at you and you answer out loud. As to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Yes, sir, is that your verdict? Yes. Ma'am, is that your verdict? You got to answer out loud, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Yes.
On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? That verdict is proper and unanimous. As to count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes.
On the back row, sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? As count 3, we, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? All right. All 3 verdicts appear to be unanimous. The court will enroll the verdict. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with you having returned a verdict of guilty in count 1 and count 2 of the indictment, we'll now proceed to the sentencing phase of the trial. State of Mississippi may call its first witness.
The state argued Carly should never be released. She may look like a little girl, but she is not.
When you consider her family and home environment, ladies and gentlemen, by all accounts, the defendant has told you, she had a loving home. She had parents that adored her. She had every opportunity, more opportunities than most kids. She was advanced in school. She had guitar lessons. They took her to equestrian therapy. They took her to counseling. She had the opportunity to have medication. Nothing was enough for her. She still committed these heinous crimes. Nothing. Her home life was a perfect home life. When we talk about these factors in Miller, that usually comes up when we talk about these defendants that have been grown up on the streets, when their parents weren't present. Now, did Carly have a dad that she didn't love or had problems? Absolutely. But ladies and gentlemen, that is not enough. That is not enough for her to be able to walk the streets. She murdered someone. She attempted to murder her stepdad. Her family life and her dad being on drugs is not enough. The circumstances of the homicide, I don't have to tell you that. Y'all just lived it. You watched it. You saw those awful photographs. You had to watch that terrible video. We listened to Ashley Smylie's last sounds. We heard from Heath Smylie on that 911 call, the desperation. He said, "Help me. Help me." Ladies and gentlemen, those crimes were awful. She has shown zero remorse. Zero remorse for what she has done. Let's talk about her ability for rehabilitation. The defendant's own expert during the guilt phase of this trial said, you know, she's on this medicine, she's fine. But if you believed that, ladies and gentlemen, you would have believed that she was having some disassociated spell at the time of the crime and that she's continuing to have these disassociated spells. And obviously no one's buying that, right? We don't know why she committed these crimes, but we know she did. And we know that she is a danger to society. If she is given the possibility of parole, no one in this room knows how long she will stay there. We cannot guarantee she will stay there 1 year or 10 years. We have no control over that. Ladies and gentlemen, we watched one of the most heinous things that I believe most of you will ever see in your life. Please do not let this lady have the possibility of parole. If she were paroled, nothing would stop her from walking into a school. Nothing would stop her from walking into a shopping mall. Nothing would stop her from walking into the grocery stores. Nothing would stop her from being in the movie theaters. Ladies and gentlemen, she is dangerous. She may look like a little girl. They may have said she's sweet little Carly, but unfortunately we all know that that's not true. We will ask, and I will ask you again when we stand back before you, that you sentence Ms. Gregg to life in prison without the possibility of parole for both the murder of her mother, Ashley Smylie, and the attempted murder of her stepfather, Heath Smylie. Thank you.
Arguments as to sentencing by the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor.
How much of a warning would you like, Mr. Camp?
2 minutes, Your Honor.
2 minutes. 15 minutes total.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The defense begged for mercy.
I'm going to have to tell you, this is probably the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. I respect your jurors, and I respect your verdict, and I totally understand that. And now I'm in front of you. Carly Gregg, when this happened, was 14. She's 15 now. Her family's sitting on the front row. Her grandparents, which are Ashley's mother and father, have been supportive during this whole process. He's Smylie, who's the victim in this case. He has been supported. This is a family that's been torn apart because of this. This is extremely, extremely difficult on all of them. And I know the state is up here saying that she's this heinous individual. And you've heard a lot of testimony that that's not who Carly is. You heard the counselors, Ms. Kirk. She couldn't believe it happened. Nobody knows why it happened. You have the opportunity to not make this worse on the family. You have three options. You can do life without parole, you can do life with parole, or you can let the judge make the determination. In this case, we would ask you, let the judge make the determination. We don't want you to give her a sentence for life in prison. Life in prison is life in prison. That's it. 14-year-old. She can come out of this at some point. Anywhere you were hearing, she can walk out of here in 10. We don't, first of all, we don't know. And usually it's a lot longer than that. I mean, a lot longer. So, I don't want you to, go back in that room and think, oh, if you come back and say she gets parole, it's not a short sentence at all. We would ask you to allow the judge to make the sentence, because the judge understands. I'm not saying y'all don't. I mean, you don't have the ability, so don't get me wrong on that. But he knows, and the court knows, what we're actually looking at with times. And so please, in this situation, please let the judge make the sentence in this case.
Final closing on behalf of the state. Is that what happened?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kemp is right. We may never know the reason why Carly killed her mom and attempted to kill her stepdad. And for me, that's even scarier than knowing why. Because if we don't know why, what's to say it won't happen again? We don't know. It is terrible for the family. The family has my sympathies, absolutely. I cannot imagine what any of them have gone through. We talked in voir dire about how sometimes the victims cooperate with the prosecutor and the prosecution, and sometimes they don't. We don't always know why. But I know this. My office represents the citizens of Rankin County, and my office is asking you to please sentence Ms. Gregg to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Thank you.
Judge ruled, life in prison without parole. District Attorney Bubba Bramlett said it plainly. Carly Gregg is evil, and insanity should never be used in the same sentence.
Carly Gregg is evil, and that's not easy to say, but the truth of the matter is sometimes evil comes in young packages, small packages, and this is one of those cases. She's fit to go to prison for the rest of her life. You hate that. She's 15 years old, but that's exactly where she belongs.
A teenage girl, a murdered mother, a family destroyed, and a sentence that ends any chance of a second life. This wasn't just a trial. It was a warning. And a question we may never fully answer. Was Carly Gregg sick? Or was she something far darker?